This is the Alien Podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Alien Earth, Episode 3, Metamorphosis.
Where are my creatures?
Captured. But I have the data.
The data is good, but it's not enough. Did they survive?
Yes. We were sabotaged.
Come in, and we'll do a full debrief.
Who is Prodigy?
Arrival, run by a child.
I can get them back. I see a way in.
No, you've done enough. Come home.
I don't have a home. I'm gone a lifetime. Everyone I know is dead.
Yes, well, you should have read your contract.
I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you. These creatures, they are my life's work. And I'm gonna get them back.
Welcome back, fellow lost boys and girls. This is TV Podcast Industries. We're back for Alien Earth, Episode 3, Metamorphosis. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Yes, welcome back, fellow lost boys, and of course, fellow aliens. I am one of your other hosts, John.
I hope you've been having a good week, everybody.
Yes, certainly have.
We've had fun. We've been at another concert, our 6th of the summer. We went to see Queens of the Stone Age this week.
We certainly did. Sound issues, Derek. Sound issues.
Yeah.
Hopefully, not like this podcast.
Oh,
but it was more
hopefully not
about where we
yeah.
were standing.
Exactly.
As soon as we moved forward a little, then the rock tones of Josh Homme came through splendid.
Yes, they did. Rockin'. That was awesome. Yes, and that's our last gig of the summer, so we've got some planning to do for next year, see what comes out next year. But we're back another week, another episode of Alien Earth to terrify and make us creep out completely. Oh, they really know how to make my skin crawl with this show. It's really good.
Oh, very good. See what chaos will come to Neverland, I'm guessing, after
absolutely.
this episode.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting when the aliens run havoc on on Neverland, because that's pretty much what's going to happen. I'm sure it should be just called Alien Neverland, I think. But we'll see how that goes. Last week, John, we were talking about a documentary about the making of Alien, and we actually got to watch it. Can you remember the name of the documentary? Because we said we'd call it out on the podcast.
Yes. So the making of is The Beast Within, the making of Alien. And it's really good. And actually, I think I was getting it slightly confused with I think there's a similar one around June, the making of June, the original June, because I think there's a whole load of people that were on the original June that then became the June that was released in the early 80s. But those original people that came off it and were replaced went into making Alien. Like, I think Geiger was attached or something to the original June. And so actually I think it was I was getting slightly confused by this kind of documentary that was out there around the original making of June.
Okay.
But The Beast Within is also really good because
it is.
One of the great things about I guess documentaries being filmed by studios on properties such as Alien back whenever they did it was that, you just get some really frank answers. And it's just really good. Something I just don't think you would get these days. Unless it was majorly after the fact.
Yeah.
You were kind of so past it that you didn't care if you were going to get sued by the company.
Well, yeah, but now they even record commentaries. If they ever do a commentary, they record them before the opening weekend of the movie, so that people don't even know what the reaction of the audience is. So you tend to find when you listen to the commentaries, they're not even talking about the scenes that everybody's interested in hearing people talk about because they expected it to land differently, So here the new one actually. Sorry, I should mention this. The new one is apparently all the extras that would be on Blu-rays and 4Ks. Yeah? They're only putting them on the streaming services now. So, for example, HBO Max in the US, they have the commentary for all of the DC movies like Superman. And if you buy it on 4K, if you go out and spend your money on the 30 quid disc, you don't get any of the commentaries, even though HBO Max is only available in the US. That's crazy.
That is just really, really awful. You do you remember when it was like the customer knows best, or it's give the consumer the choice? Yeah. But they don't give any choice now. It's so restrictive, and it just becomes all about their own little pot of profit. Yeah. And it's like...
But if you want to buy something permanently for yourself, you should be given, especially if you're going to spend that kind of money, you should be given everything that is available, right, at the time, so then you can keep it. But now it's like, the whole thing about Batgirl and where they made the movie and then threw it in the bin, basically, so nobody ever got to see it. Yeah. Loads of other movies that they've taken off the platforms in the US and around Europe to sell on somewhere else, and you're going, but what if they don't sell them on? Then I never get to watch it?
Well, it's one of those things where you can imagine, in the meeting room where it's like, we're not going to put it on 4K or Blu-ray anymore. It'll just be on the streaming service, but just be for a few years. Then we can always just bring it back onto those.
Exactly, yeah.
But we can then justify a higher cost and more costs and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think our advice anyway would be, whilst you can just go and get stuff on hard copy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even if it's from a car boot sale and there's a ton of Blu-rays, like, have a flick through them, see what might be there.
Well, exactly.
Because otherwise... You don't know what you're going to get, what decision is going to be made on the platform.
Absolutely, and when the streaming services all crash, you're going to lose access to the content anyway. But the good news is, at least we've got something brand new coming every week with Alien Earth, and something as cool as this. And if you want to follow along with us, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, we'd love if you would. Pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, and you can follow us over there. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about Alien Earth. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or of course, follow us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/tvpodcastindustries. There's a spoiler post up there for each of the episodes of Alien Earth that have come out so far, and you can leave your thoughts on there and chat with some other fellow Lost boys and girls.
Absolutely. Let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion, Derek.
Absolutely.
Who gave us what, where, when, and how?
Well, this show, of course, is based on characters created by Dan O'Bannon, Ronald Shusett, and H.R. Geiger. The showrunner for the show is Noah Hawley, and this episode was written by Noah Hawley and Robert De Laurentis. Robert De Laurentis was a writer and co-executive producer on Fargo and on Umbrella Academy. We covered Umbrella Academy, all 4 seasons of that show here on TV Podcast Industries. I almost forgot there was a 4th season.
I know.
There, yeah, we covered that here as well. But the episode was directed by Dana Gonzales, who directed episode 2 as well. We talked about him last week as well. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Alien Earth, episode 3, Metamorphosis?
Sure. At the crash site in New Siam, Nibs begins to question her purpose, asking Curly why the hybrids are all named after Peter Pan characters and why Marcy gets to be Wendy. Boy Kavalier orders the specimens, though, to be brought to Neverland Island for study, despite objections from Kirsh and Dame Sylvia. Morrow finds Smee and Slightly guarding the Xenomorph eggs and interrogates them, suspicious of their childlike behaviour. He downloads the specimen data from the Maginot and plants the device on Slightly before escaping a hatching Xenomorph egg and Kirsh. Meanwhile, Wendy finds her brother and is forced to fight the Xenomorph after it has laid a trap using Hermit as bait. Wendy stops it from killing Hermit with a meat hook, and instead she kills it but sustains serious injuries, along with her brother. Returning to the island, Hermit undergoes surgery and the Sylvias tend to Wendy. Elsewhere on the loose, having escaped into New Siam, Morrow calls Yutani and insists on retrieving the specimens despite being ordered to return home. At the research complex, Boy Kavalier inspects the specimens a little too closely until Kirsh removes him for his own protection, while his advisor, Atom Ends, questions Smee and Slightly about their encounter with Morrow. Later, unknown to anyone else, Morrow contacts Slightly via the device he embedded in him during their first meeting. He convinces Slightly to be his friend. Meanwhile, Curly confronts Kavalier about his favoritism towards Wendy, believing herself to be the best hybrid. Kirsh, Tootles, and Curly dissect a facehugger and introduce a larvae to Hermit's lung removed during surgery. Wendy awakes, seemingly intercepting signals from the Xenomorph eggs, which cause her pain. She ultimately collapses in the laboratory containing the Xenomorph eggs.
Ooh, and is she there or is she not? Nobody seems to be paying very much attention to her.
No, that's true, actually. Yeah, it was a little bit like that, wasn't it? Was it kind of an out-of-body experience, almost, being captured Or was Kirsh, Curly, and Tootles so focused on the surgery of the facehugger that they just didn't notice? So yeah, it'd be interesting now.
I think it's just because the operation that they do with the lung of Hermit is definitely a long time after, or a bit after at least, the piece of work they're doing on the facehugger, because Boy Cavalier's outside the window when Kirsh is doing that, is inputting the embryo into the lung effectively. So they would have had to step over Wendy, just left her on the floor, because she wakes up after that as well. So either she's not in the room at all, or she's in a different room, but I don't think we're supposed to know. I think we're going to find out where she was next week, or what actually happened
absolutely.
Next week, because it's very weird that she would fall to the ground behind them all and nobody can notice her at all.
It is really interesting, though. I must say, I was really anticipating this episode because of its title, Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in my mind thinking we were going to see, what happens to the little creepy crawly that drained the two soldiers of their blood.
Oh, yeah.
Was that we're going to start to see the change occurring in that, or the octi eyeball after it had attached itself to the cat, or indeed maybe the cat. And I thought we were going to kind of have that metamorphosis of the life cycle of some of these other specimens. Whereas in fact it's really dealing with the Lost Boys to some extent really here, and their journey on the path to change with all this questioning and these new experiences that have actually happened by way of Wendy wanting to go into the field and them all being dragged with them.
Well, exactly.
So
Wendy
it's
got
kind
the
of
mission.
interesting.
Absolutely. It is very interesting, isn't it? That seems to be the big change. I guess we'll talk about that as we get into our top moments from the episode.
Yes.
But let's start out with Wendy herself, because really it does kick off the episode as Wendy continues her search for her brother, running through the corridors of the building in New Siam as she's trying to find her way to where the Xeno has taken Joe to. I must say, I really like this idea that as Wendy gets there, you hear Joe calling out for his sister Marcy, as he's learned that's who Wendy is, and he's calling out for her, going, it's a trap, don't come near me. And we've seen these traps before in the Alien movies before, that the Xenomorphs set things like traps to bring in their real prey. But it doesn't matter to Wendy because she's a synth in a synth body, at least. So she goes in, takes out her brother, completely ignores all the warnings that he's giving her, and then says, "Get behind me." And he's kind of going, "But you're a child, and I'm the army man, basically." And she's like, "Not anymore."
Yeah.
It's interesting that the Xeno backed away. It was looking in at the two of them, and then it backed away when Wendy put herself in between the two.
Yeah, I mean, backed away or modified its plan,
Maybe.
Or did its plan as it was going to.
Oh, well.
Like, I mean, it's difficult to know, but I think it modified its plan because the alien maybe sensed something different about it. Firstly, being synthetic, but also possibly given we've had this thing thrown in there from Morrow that they sense fear, and Wendy is also sensing the aliens at an audio level, and maybe the Xenomorph also senses that, or senses something, some connection there. Nonetheless, he still goes after them, and I would like to think it's intelligent enough, clever enough that it modified its plan when it realised it wasn't going to be able to sneak up on them. And get in there,
I wonder if there is something in that,
effectively, because they were standing off against one another.
But I wonder if there is something in there about the fear part of it. I wonder if it's not just that it senses fear, it's that it's attracted by fear and will stoke it if you're not afraid enough. Like, does that add an extra bit of horror to the Xenomorph character that we've been watching all these years? The reason why we're all so terrified of this creature is that it's actually trying to make us more terrified. Because effectively, as you say, it backs off from the truck that they're inside and then jumps on the roof and starts kind of banging on the roof because Wendy stared it down. And Joe was going to stare it down as well because he was trying to protect his sister. So neither of them were scared of the Xenomorph. Both of them are going to run at it and try and take it on. And then it jumps on the roof and starts banging on the roof. So maybe it's trying to scare them a bit more. Maybe, stoking some fear in its prey to make the kill even more exciting. And then Wendy stabs it with her sword and realizes, inside this is some acid blood. Oh
no, it's really good though. I mean, I think this whole fight with the alien was great. Like, it was really suspenseful from start to finish. Just the fact that, you have that standoff, then in the container, where is it? But Wendy is able to track it probably much better. So stabs it through. I like the fact that later on, because the Xenomorph does knock over the container, the acid hole is on the side of the container. It's just a great bit of continuity, really, from the production team.
And that's where Wendy got out, I think, is through that hole in the now floor, basically. And
I think, there was real suspense here. What is going to happen with Hermit? He thinks he's, like you say, he thinks he's a soldier, but in the end, again, he gets sort of pierced by the alien with its tail, and thrown onto the floor. And I think I like that the alien thinks it's got time to kind of leisurely come up to Hermit, and then think about killing him. I love this notion that Wendy gets the little alien head and holds it.
Inner mouth, or the I've learnt a new word today, John. Pharyngeal jaws. Pharyngeal jaws. It would be the word for the little inner mouth that comes out from the alien. Very creepy.
Yeah, very, very nice.
And again, I think that adds a little layer to my theory that it's trying to add even more fear to Joe when it's climbing over him in that slow motion and then extending those jaws towards his face. It's just trying to get that extra bit of fear out of Joe. But it doesn't work because, Wendy's got a big meat hook.
But it's just really good. I really like how she grasps the little head. I like the fact, like, she's kind of going, I don't know really what I'm doing here. But in the end,
almost accidental.
There is a formulated, there is a formulated plan on the hoof here where, despite his injury, Hermit opens up this locker where she puts it in, but the alien brings her in, and you just have, the fight off screen. But I love the reveal of it when Joe opens back up the door, just to see Wendy stood there with her guillotine sword, and the alien's head chopped off effectively and dead. And then you just get the milk running down her forehead, and yes, she falls to the ground. And in the end, you have this holy trinity of dead alien, severely injured synth, and an injured human being here. And so it was just really good, this whole sequence, and I really enjoyed it. I thought as a sequence and a sort of a foray in attacking, being attacked, being stalked by the alien, I thought it was really, really good. I must say, I could watch that again and again. I just liked how it played out and built it. I thought it was really suspenseful.
Absolutely. And I suppose one of the things we haven't really seen either in most of the Alien movies, the synths that we've seen, at least in the first two Alien movies, are mostly science officers, so they're not really the action-orientated type, even though Bishop does do a bit of action in Aliens. But here we have Wendy, who is effectively, we've seen her, running at high speed. We've seen her jumping from high heights, so she is a really capable fighter, and she's going up against the Xenomorph, and the Xenomorph doesn't really want to eat a synthetic. It wants to get that human meat effectively. So yes, of course it will be having a battle, but the fact that it took place behind closed doors, a good little use of the suspense there. You just assume Wendy will be ripped in half, but no, it's a win for Wendy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's cool.
Actually, the whole thing of the synth, the human aspect, even with the cyborg, I like how, and this I think comes from Aliens or Alien. It's one of the early where they talk about the eggs opening, and it must be something to do with the heat of the body or the humidity changes that occur, and it responds to them and opens up
Very good.
for the facehugger to come out.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that what you have with Kirsh, Smee, and Slightly in the egg, around by the eggs as well, just that aspect of they don't open for them because there's not these signatures, these bio signatures coming off them, whereas they do with Morrow, which is really good. And I guess that brings us to our other point where you have Morrow, Slightly, and Smee together.
As they're meeting here. So Slightly was left guarding the omelette or guarding the eggs at the end of last week's episode. I absolutely love this moment when he's standing there waiting for Smee to come down. Smee had been sent to meet up with Wendy, and the two of them were supposed to be guarding the eggs by Kirsh. But Slightly's just standing waiting and hears all of the noises around him. He's just a scared, frightened little 9 or 10-year-old, basically.
Absolutely.
And Smee's the one that arrives, but
he's still calling for Wendy as well. Like the noise going, and he's like, Wendy? And it is really good though. I love this sequence.
But did he hear the message from Kirsh saying that Smee was the one coming down? What he was told by Wendy was stay here and guard the omelette. I don't know whether he knows that Smee's on his way.
No, I don't think he does.
So that's why he's completely freaked out. But I love that Smee, when he arrives and completely freaks out slightly, he says to him, it's scary as hell out here, knowing it's terrifying, all the noises that are going on around the building. But he still didn't call out for Slightly to warn him that he was coming. He still terrified his mate, basically. It's really funny. Yeah,
absolutely. I do like that when Smee turns up as well. You know, they start having this back and forth, and it says, like, it's as creepy as F out here, bro. And it's like, it says, you said F. You said the F word. Well, you said shit. And it's just like, there's just these great conversations. And I think what's so good about these, like, they are bros. They've got this connection.
Yes.
Have Slightly and Smee.
I feel like they're the two closest of all of the
group.
And
it really shows in the dialogue here. You know, like, he's talking about, it's a spaceship underground. It's stupid place for a spaceship. You know, all this kind of stuff. And they're like, check this out. No, you check this out. Let's check this out. No, you check this out. So it's like really, really childish, but it works so well. And I think it works even better because you then just have the situation becoming really grown up very quickly with the arrival of Morrow. And, you know, he there too is kind of isn't getting what he expects and recognizes that they are childlike in how they're behaving. And he's kind of trying to piece the puzzle together here. And I just thought it works so well as a counterbalance to this really serious, slightly intimidating moment with Morrow, you know, a cyborg with a knife that comes out of his hand and carrying a gun. And I love the way that, you know, Smee and Slightly are turning away like children from the gun.
Oh, yeah.
Not trying to be the man or the hero that stands up to the barrel of a gun and face it. They're kind of like, no, this isn't good. I don't want to look into that because otherwise it shoots me.
Absolutely.
Kind of thing. And it's just really nicely done.
They just have such great performances here. I love some of the ways that they say things. You know, the fact that Morrow thinks they're security because of where they are, and he's saying, you know, give me your guns, and Slightly's going, we're not allowed to have any guns, you know, completely innocently. We're not allowed to have any, so you instantly know, hang on a second, there's something weird going on here. And then when they say, you know, they will protect the people that they care about, when Morrow's given him the moral quandary that he had to go through on the ship, he's saying to them, if you are left and you are given the order to protect specimens and not the people around you, what do you do with that order? And they ask, well, are they bad people or good people, firstly? And then they go, well, we protect friends and we protect parents. And then he looks at them kind of going, you guys don't even know your synths, because synths don't have parents. So he's trying to piece it all together from what they're saying, and they're saying all these very innocent, normal things to them that nobody should be questioning, but they're in the bodies of 25, 30-year-olds here, you know? So, there's such great performances from all of the cast that are doing The Lost Boys. They've all got moments, particularly in this episode.
Absolutely.
That kind of stand to them, but each of them are doing something very different. And these two together, I think, work really well. If you've seen two 9 and 10-year-old excitable kids together, this is exactly what they're like.
But it's also the mannerisms as well.
Yeah.
Like, Smee is kind of like, he folds his arms like almost in defiance of Morrow. It's like, no, you're not getting past. And then it's like, then almost they go, right, we've got to go now. And they walk to go and Morrow blocks them. So they try and go the other way and he blocks them. And it's just the whole thing is just so well observed.
Yes.
It really puts a smile on my face. And I think, you know, what comes out of this that's really interesting is that, Morrow puts something onto, he downloads the data, or removes the data from the computer bank.
And gets the entire thing.
Gets the whole thing.
Did we see Kirsh last week doing the same thing when he got access to the computer? He took a copy of all of the data as well, didn't he? So he does have that. Because he says when he arrives, he says tomorrow he knows who he is because he took all of the data. So
later at Neverland, you see Boy Kavalier looking at readouts that you'd seen on the Maginot.
Right, very good.
But after he's done that, he kind of walks up to slightly and threatens him, but he's put a little sort of transponder or a little device, and he puts it onto Slightly's neck, and you see it kind of almost like sink into it, become invisible. Effectively, I'm guessing, so you can either track him or communicate with him or both. It's just before Kirsh arrives, and Kirsh sees Morrow here, and this kind of standoff was quite good as well. I mean, I do like Morrow's kind of, you won't be allowed to have them. She spent billions to get them. You know, you have, I don't speak to sort of underlings or whatever word he uses. And he's like, and which part of the earth are you king of?
Exactly.
Like, it's just really, Kirsh is so unflinching in face of Morrow, who's quite threatening.
But Timothy Olyphant's just playing this so well. I love, just that moment of, when they meet first, Amara saying, "This is my ship," and he's going to know the ship's place, and you landed it like a ball in the neighbor's garden. I'm the neighbor. This is mine now, and it's Kirsh explaining quite logically why this ship is no longer Morrow's. He landed in the wrong garden, love it. He's just so level-headed, and everything will run to the plan that Kirsh has. Love it. Yeah.
I love, actually, the other side of Kirsh is you just get it up at the start of this episode where he's saying, we have 5 undiscovered species detected, and Tootles comes in, because he's the one that wants to be the scientist. Yeah. He goes, "Can I have a look?" And he says, he gives him space to go, and he immediately goes with his hands, and Kirsh tells him, "Look with your eyes." It's just, the whole thing is really good.
How many of your teachers said that to you when you were a kid, John? As I can imagine in every science class. Can I touch it with my hands? No, you can look with your eyes, though. That's it. That's as far as
exactly.
you get. But these scenes with Slightly and Smee and Morrow to begin with, and then eventually he breaks away and jumps out. The scenes themselves are really interesting, really good. And then they all take a really creepy turn when Morrow contacts Slightly later on. Slightly's left on his own in his room and gets this message in from Morrow, where Morrow's trying to find out where the specimens have been taken to. He's had his conversation with Yutani, another interesting conversation where he's effectively saying, "I've been away for 65 years. All my entire life here is gone. I know my mission is to get these specimens back because they're my life's work."
It's actually quite tragic. He goes, "I have no home anymore." And in fact, he actually thinks he's speaking to Yutani's grandmother.
Yes.
Because that's who was in charge when he left.
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, come on in, and we'll debrief. Come on home." And he's like, "I have no home. These creatures are my life's work. I will get them back." He does, in effect, disobey an order. She says to come back in. So that's kind of interesting, but he is committed here. And I like then that you see him, part of that is then getting back in touch with Slightly here. And in a sense, spooking him out, which I loved how this was played by Slightly. It's just like, all of a sudden he hears a voice and is like, hello, who's there?
Yeah.
And then realizes who it is. And Morrow's like saying, you know, I figured out your riddle. Have you figured out mine? He kind of gets into Slightly's head really here. Plays that classic line, I guess, almost, where he's like, you know, you gave me some good advice earlier on, and that we all need to have friends, you know?
Yeah.
Will you be my friend? And Slightly is effectively kind of going, well, okay then, because I can relate to that, because that's, do you know?
Yeah.
But
It's just grooming, and
It is,
Morrow's
exactly.
using the things he knows as an adult to groom this 9-year-old child. You know, he slightly doesn't respond to the request to be friends until he says, "Oh, please, it'll make me happy." Basically, so he speaks to him like a 9-year-old would understand, and eventually Slightly agrees. Of course, I'll be your friend, because that would be awful to not be a friend of somebody, wouldn't it? That would be a terrible thing to do.
Yeah,
you know, my parents would be disappointed if I wasn't friend to somebody that asked to be my friend, you know? So yeah, it's a really creepy moment, where Morrow's using these buttons to push and get in, with Slightly. So I guess this is going to be his way into, Neverland.
exactly. That's what I'm guessing. I mean, but also just before Morrow gets in touch with Slightly, we also have Atom coming to talk to both Slightly and Smee.
Yes.
About Morrow. He says, we caught everything by your retinal cameras. I love how they freak out at this. And it's like, what? You're allowed in? You know, we don't want this. You know?
It's everything you see is recorded, is the way that he says it. And Smee particularly is like, hang on a second, what do you mean? You know, so.
Absolutely. But he's there going, you know, we caught everything, but what did the guy whisper to you at the end? And this is where he says, when is a machine not a machine? And, you know, effectively, that's what he goes back, and Atom is satisfied enough with that. Smee is concerned that he might find them and come in, break in and kill them. And he's like, no, we won't be able to do that. But ultimately after that, Smee and Slightly, you know, you get the sense of their bond, and friendship as Smee puts his arm around Slightly. But again, you have Kirsh watching on, because there's this metamorphosis here happening, and it's one necessarily I'm not too sure that Kirsh approves of, because it's too human for him. He's kind of has said to Dame Sylvia, stop pretending they're human. They're not anymore. Yet here we have that behavior of comforting another person. So it's just really, really good.
Absolutely. He's seeing examples here of why they're not like him. And, you know, this is the thing. I think Kirsh being their guidance, I guess, their teacher, the person they're learning from, and the person in charge, he wants to mold them into something like him, but they're not like him at all. They may have the bodies like him, but they're not like him. They have a different mind inside that needs to be dealt with differently. But it is a lovely moment when you see Smee putting his arm around Slightly, because Slightly and Smee are both absolutely terrified by this character, Atom Hines. A character in the first 2 episodes who was just standing in the background. He's played by Ade Edmondson. We said he was going to be an important character. Here's his first real scene, I think, when he's coming into the kids. And the minute he comes in, the kids are going, what did we do wrong? Uh-oh, this guy's coming in to interrogate us almost. And he's got this kind of, it feels like a Gestapo interrogation style about him. He's very terse, very strong with the kids. He wants to know all about Morrow. Morrow's the peak of his interest, this person who's escaped from the ship that crash landed in New Siam. Things weren't locked down to his satisfaction. These kids might have some information about it, so he's going to go full bore at them, and leaves them with Slightly completely freaked out, and Smee comforting him. You know, he doesn't care about the kids being hurt by his questioning and concerned that they may be killed in their sleep. He just says, we're on an island at the ocean, it's fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Really good scenes, though. Gosh, these actors are just so good. But the next big moment from the episode, really, we've talked about it a little bit, but the next big thing is the specimens have arrived at Neverland. And that, it's almost a bit of a time jump. We see after the fight, we see the Marines who are working with Hermit. His crew are the ones that go and collect Hermit and Wendy, the Xenomorph, who's now split in half, and then the rest of the specimens are all gathered together and brought back to the Neverland.
Well, that's
island.
it. Interestingly, the specimens and these soldiers that were at the crash site as well, are that you saw with Joe on the roof as the spaceship crashed.
Yeah.
Or at least some of them that remain. So they are also now back in Neverland.
More victims
Exactly.
for the 5 specimens who will definitely break out.
Them, along with unnamed scientists,
Yeah.
screaming around the place. They're brought back here because Boy Kavalier calls up Kirsh to say, it's no longer a rescue mission. There's effectively $1 trillion worth of R&D has just landed into our laps, he says. And Kirsh is kind of like saying, well, we're on an active crash site here and having to contain alien species from effectively invading the Earth. And Kavalier kind of goes to Kirsh, I thought you were better than a man, yet all I'm hearing is excuses. And it's just like, ooh, okay, this is really interesting, because if it's anything like David from Prometheus, then, and actually all the time that we see Kirsh in the lab with the specimens, doing his experiments, doing his autopsy work, I'm there going, in his mind, is he just going, well, this one's for you, Boy Kavalier.
Well, yeah.
There's just this sort of unease here with what Boy Kavalier says to Kirsh in that instance, and it feels like it follows Kirsh back to the Neverland Research Island, and I just really like that about Kirsh. I mean, even once they're back, the samples are taken down to the deep sort of secure lab underground, and Kavalier goes to see them. He's like a kid in a sweetie shop, and Kirsh just kind of turns around to him and says, well, was it worth it going after something new and shiny before a multi-billion-dollar launch, i.e. the hybrids? And this is just after, again, he's gotten a bit of a roasting off Arthur and Dame Sylvia with the fact that they're now having to kind of rescue Wendy and recuperate her. They've been critical of him as well, and he's like, you're all so feisty today. What is going on?
Well, yeah. But it's just the fact that, when these things happen in the real world, when, the despot leader or some completely extremely wealthy leader of a company does something really ridiculously stupid, people out in the real world always go, why didn't anybody tell them no? Why didn't anybody tell them this is a stupid idea? And what they're showing here is lots of people do that, but people like Boy K go, stop telling me no. I pay your wages. I've got $1 trillion. Nobody tells me no. Interestingly, the actor who plays Boy Kavalier was saying that's one of the things that he put into his character. Samuel Blanken was being interviewed about it, and he was saying this is a person that hasn't been told no since he was a child. Even his parents never told him no. Yeah. They brought him up with the world of yes, and he's now a trillionaire, and he can basically buy and sell every single thing around him. So what would happen to the mindset of any person who lives their entire life never being told no? All he can see is the research potential of this vessel that crash landed here. He even says there's an out there for him. He even says, what are we supposed to do? Give all this stuff back to you, Tanny, and say, you go ahead? He's not willing to do that. He wants to take this and research. And it's so interesting because, as they say, what we've got here is a whole group of Lost Boys, these brand new hybrid creatures of synthetics with human minds inside them. This is a brand new innovation that's taken years and years to develop. And before he even launched it, he's going, ooh, but this over here might be much more interesting. It's like, oh, shiny new thing.
That's it, exactly. And I love that down in the lab as well, he goes over to the egg, and it's so good. It just starts to open, and you can see Kirsh just pulls him back away from it and effectively tells him to get out of the lab.
You just wish the Kirsh was going to push him towards it, wouldn't
But
you?
that's what I mean. It's like, but he doesn't. He does the opposite. Saves him, and actually Kirsh has deduced the early life stages really well and explains them to Kavalier and tells Kavalier to leave, who then puts him in charge and that only synthetics then are allowed into the lab. So it's really interesting then that you have then this work that is being done principally on the eggs by Kirsh with Tootles and Curly.
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
It's interesting actually because the start of that scene as Curly goes and opens up the protective vault where the eggs are, I actually thought she was about to sort of release one.
Absolutely, yep.
I didn't, because she had just been in a conversation with Boy Kavalier where she says, I'll be you one day, but it's not. She is helping Kirsh and Tootles investigate the Xenomorph egg, and then the face hugger, so operating on it to get ultimately then this little embryonic alien from the face hugger, which I just thought was really, really cool. I love seeing that because you're kind of like going, is it an egg? Pea size, mini egg, chocolate size, Cadbury's cream egg size? Is it an egg? Or actually it is almost like a tadpole type thing.
Exactly.
An embryonic aspect here that is removed from the face hugger. I like the face hugger sort of struggling, as it's being pinned down, and you have the insertion tube sort of wafting around.
Trying to find anything to insert it into. Yeah.
It's one thing, but it ultimately gets dissected, and you have Kirsh opening it up to reveal this embryonic alien, which was very, very cool. At the same time, you have Wendy having woken up, seemingly recovered. Here's the alien clicks and is reacting to them as Kirsh is operating and doing the procedure on it. And that becomes ever more and more intense for her until she kind of collapses with the effort of it all, or the exhaustion. And like, to the interesting point, is she really there or not? It's just one of those things you just don't know.
I think because Noah Hawley is paying homage to all sections of the Alien movies that have gone past, all of the Alien movies, including, as you say, Prometheus and the Ridley Scott movies that aren't connected to the ones that we've seen. He does take some reference points from various movies, and something that we did see in a lot of the movies was Ripley having visions of things that were happening. Things like in Aliens, she thought she was impregnated with a chest burster, effectively. Thought that it had popped out of her, and then she woke up at the beginning of that movie. Some of the other movies, she had those kind of experiences as well. So I wonder if this is similar, that next episode Wendy will wake up back in the bed and she'll not have experienced that, but just because it's a TV show, we're getting to have that spread over 2 episodes rather than over just this 1 episode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It could be just as easy as that. It's just because, as we said, she falls down on the floor behind where Tootles and Curly and Kirsh are in the lab, but they are in a lab. They would have noticed somebody coming in, particularly because Boy Kavalier had said nobody's allowed into that room unless you know who they are, and it can only be synthetics, right? So, but I think you are right, though. Definitely something to keep an eye on for the rest of the series. Don't underestimate the character that could be being used here as the template, and that's David from Prometheus.
Yes.
While Noah Hawley has said he's basing this on Alien and Aliens, he's definitely taking stuff from other movies, as we've said. So I think he is taking the synthetic journey that David went throughout Prometheus, and And that arc may be what's going to happen to the synthetic who is Kirsh here, and maybe also what might happen to some of the hybrids as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always that in the back of my mind for sure around this now.
Just, did the humans get killed by the 5 specimens, or do they outlive their usefulness to the now post-human creatures that they've created, basically?
Exactly. But I mean, I think that's one of the things that Prometheus Covenant brought was just the notion, and Alien as well, that the bad robot,
absolutely,
or bad synth. But the other side of that is with all this operating on the egg, then on the facehugger, you have Joe being operated on as well.
Yeah.
As they remove one of his lungs. And you see later this lung has been reinflated. It's put into almost like a stasis tank. And that extracted embryonic alien is placed into the tank by Kirsh, watched on by Kavalier, as the little psychotic embryo goes swimming around and just goes and into the lung. Straight in.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the lung looks like it is still a live organ. And that's why the xenomorph tadpole goes inside it and crawls inside it,
Well, that's it. And wasn't
really
the suggestion that the xenomorph took on an element or character of the host?
That's right, yeah.
And so I just wonder if then it'll just be a giant ball.
Maybe it'll just...
a giant lung.
It'll just be able to breathe in any location. An amazing ability to breathe. It did look a little bit like the meat sticks that are in... Kebab house.
Gee, okay. Yeah, well, I love kebabs.
Another reason why I probably don't eat the ones that are hanging in shops for too long.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily have equated the two together, but each to their own.
No, I think it's just created another one of those scary things. I'll look at a kebab now from now on and think of the lung in Alien.
I think what's living inside is
exactly. We go on to our last point because there is a little bit of movement, and you mentioned the metamorphosis in the episode seems to be about the Lost Boys particularly. So the last kind of point that we're going to talk about is pondering the big questions. Let's talk about Curly first, because that's just a one conversation. It's just interesting because she seems to be quite jealous of Wendy's position, and that partly comes from the conversation she has with Nibs at the start, I think, where Nibs is pointing out, why is it that we have to be named after characters from Peter Pan? Who chose that for us? And why is Wendy called Wendy? Why did she get to choose the name Wendy? So that seems to be leading Curly to go and confront Boy Kavalier about this question. Why is it that Wendy is Wendy, basically? Why is she his favourite? And a really interesting conversation. And again, this takes a real sinister turn, similar to that Morrow conversation with Slightly. It seems like Boy Kavalier is using his adult ways again to get what he wants out of Curly, it's really creepy. Curly's saying to him, I'm the best. Why is she your favourite? Is it because she's the first and that's the only reason? Well, then I want to take her position as the favourite. And rather than going, I like you all equally or anything like that, he goes, yeah, she is my favourite because she's the first. Does that bother you? Almost goading Curly into trying to impress him.
Well, that's it.
He had mentioned,
It immediately makes Curly competitive. She goes, I'm better than Wendy. She only cares about her brother. I think about things. I asked Arthur for French tapes. I downloaded them all and I can now speak French, trying to impress him. But she recognizes that and she says to Kavalier, I can be you one day. And, ultimately, as you say, Kavalier kind of switches it back to say, well, I'll give you some books, give you something to watch, and then come back and we'll have a conversation and we'll see how it goes. And she's like, does that mean I'm your favourite now? And he goes, no, but you're in the race. and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's slightly more creepy as well, because he doesn't say come back and have a conversation. He says come back and we'll play. So again,
Yes.
using the terminology for a child
Yeah.
to manipulate them into what he wants from her as well. So he's loving this authority he has over her and how he can twist it to his advantage as well. So remember, the thing we learned about Boy Kavalier is he wasn't trying to solve world hunger or create world peace or solve cancer or save people from incurable diseases. He wanted to create a creature that he could sit down with and have a conversation with, so he doesn't feel like the smartest person in the room.
Well,
and that's the only thing he wants.
Yeah, and ultimately create a product.
Yes.
Because, you know, there's literally no sense of the public good that comes from any of these corporations. It's our IP. It's R&D, $1 trillion worth in order to create products, services, and so on. But what I mean is like the amount of learnings around the human condition, even that they're in such an early stage of having been transferred.
Exactly.
You know, and you have this sort of butt up between Arthur and Dame Sylvia with him as well when Wendy comes back, and you know he's quite critical. Arthur is quite critical of him. Yeah, and he's like, "Well, come on, tell me what you really think. Yeah. You know, don't be a wuss." Effectively,
exactly. Grow up here.
Again, you know, that idea of speaking truth to power when that power is effectively a young man with trillions and trillions worth of money and by association power. Like, so it's just really interesting sort of observation of everything really that in essence is going on.
Well, exactly. And I think we're all waiting for the moment where he gets confronted with the thing that he can't throw money at, which is hopefully all 5 of the specimens in one room at the same time, fighting over pieces of his body as he dies, I think. Yeah.
I think there will be a
I'm a trillionaire. Please don't rip out my spleen. Yeah. I don't think that's going to work for him, but I feel like they're going to keep this villainous character alive right to the last episode. But there is the other character. We mentioned Nibs already a couple of times throughout the episodes, but she seems to really be going through a crisis of immortality. Almost. She was the character in the first episode, the young child in the first episode, who asked, when we go through the procedure, how soon can we go home to Wendy, and was told, well, you're not going home. And here we see that this has been really eating away with her. She still has that memory as she's looking at herself in the mirror, and she seems to be questioning this body much more than anybody else. Why is she in this body? Why is she stuck here running missions? You know, she's a child. She's a child who was in a wheelchair and was going to die. And now she
says we're in adult bodies. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
But they're treating us like children. We're in adult bodies. They're telling us we're children.
And we can't grow up.
Yeah.
You know? It's just really fascinating.
Yeah. Why are we called lost boys when half of us are girls? You know, why didn't we get to pick our names? Why is Wendy the only one that got to pick her name? And then she does that really, that really awful thing of while she's staring into the mirror, sticking the finger directly into her eye. It's really difficult to watch as she just presses against the iris with her finger and it's just unblinking. I don't know how she does that.
I think that might be CGI.
I think it has to be. It has to be.
I think. Yeah. I don't know, but I was like going, eek. All manner of bacteria introduced to that eyeball. But I mean, it is one of those really interesting things where they're all going through, you know, things very differently. Like it's almost like Nibs has a guilt for still being there. Yeah. And now that she is there, that actually the stuff that she wants to do, she can't do, like be home with her parents, of which she still has memories of, you know, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So
it's about choice as well, isn't it? That thing of with Nibs, it really feels like she didn't make this choice, at least knowingly. And how could an 8 or 9 year old know the ramifications of this decision to put themselves into this immortal body. They're going to live forever inside these bodies. How could they possibly know the implications of that? But she's questioning them so quickly here, and this is the one that it makes me feel. You mentioned about Curly when she walked into the egg room, that you're wondering whether she was going to release one of the specimens onto the station. It's Nibs that I have the question over. That moment where Nibs goes, well, I don't want to live and nobody else can live either, and releases something into the out of quarantine into Neverland.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, even because she was getting flashbacks to the Octi eyeball.
Yeah.
So you wonder whether it might involve that.
Well, that was trying to attack her.
The eye, touching the eye. Like, I was wondering, are we going to see a little tentacle come out in there? It actually impregnated her.
Did get in somehow. Oh, yeah, maybe.
So you never know.
Yeah, but it is really scary. And the one other thing that's in the Nibs moments when she's walking around Neverland, that dude with the spray is back.
Oh, again. I know. Not a clue.
No idea what he's doing. Maybe he's just touching up the paint.
I do not know, but it's like there's some issue with the building.
It's probably mold. Like, did you see how many trees are around it?
Well, no, that's because, it's because it's built in a forest. Yeah. But, yes, and I'm sure
it's just keeping down the mold. That's all it is, John. It's nothing special.
It's indoors.
Yeah.
So that's bad ventilation.
It is. Yeah, maybe Kavalier didn't pay for the best ventilation company in the world. No, I wonder is there going to be something revealed later on in the series that there's other types of experiments that are going on off to the side and out the corners. We're focused on the experiments that make sense to the Alien Earth TV show and what's going on there, but there's lots of other things going on, and this guy's job is to seal them off after they've failed or something. So. Yeah. Is it something like that? I bet we'll get to see something later on in the series.
Well, even Curly asks Boy Kavalier, is this where you created us, in his kind of office?
Yeah.
With the kind of proto faces that he has hanging on the wall, which is very Game of Thronesy.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it did remind me of that. Yeah. Also, the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's what it kind of looked like too. Excellent. Any other points? Any other notes that you want to mention, John, about the episode?
No, none from me.
I just have one note that I want to talk about, because we'd mentioned it a little bit earlier on, but I kind of want to underline it. Morrow here gives an excuse for what happened in that first episode. We thought that he was maybe the one that had released all of the xenomorphs on the ship, but here when he's talking to Slightly and to Smee, he tells them that he was given an order to protect the specimens. He said the specimens were the mission a couple of times to the rest of the crew, but it seems like during the time after bringing the eggs aboard, the eggs infected the crew, and then the crew all died, and he kept himself safe and the specimens safe and didn't help any of the crew.
Yes, he says we were sabotaged.
But he says... Yeah, but he also says, and we kind of thought he was the saboteur, but he's saying he just didn't help the crew. He isn't involved in it. His mission was to save the specimens, and he chose to save himself as well, as that would be the best way to save the specimens, but he didn't help any of the crew, and he's having that moral dilemma in this episode here. But that's quite interesting, because we were thinking that, we'd see the flash back to that scene later on in the season. We thought that's what was going to happen. We'd get a flashback and see what happened aboard the Mangino. But he's kind of explained that he feels he's at fault for not helping, but he isn't responsible for it. He didn't cause it.
But it is interesting, that whole scene with Morrow, because he does say we were sabotaged. He keeps asking for the Boy Kavalier all the time, and we see him actually also reading up on him when he's talking with Slightly, and you're kind of going, is he a double agent of some description, or does he think that it's Prodigy that has done the sabotaging?
I don't think he'd be a double agent because he was away for 65 years. So
no, that's true.
Gone way before. So in 40 years' time, a child will be born that you will report to.
But he's also a cyborg. So again, linking into when is a machine not a machine when it's a human with a machine attached to it. Also, I guess is the riddle that he is saying that he's asking Slightly to guess. Like, as he says, I've guessed yours, but have you guessed mine? But equally, does he just have the suspicion because they've crashed into New Siam and into Prodigy territory, which interestingly wasn't there when he left. So I think that's why he's looking up.
Yeah.
But maybe he just thinks they sabotaged it, but who knows? But it was interesting, that whole conversation, that actually when he runs through that scenario too slightly, and it's his experience of what happens on the ship, and maybe that's the flashback.
Maybe. But it was the navigation system that was gone, wasn't it? That's what he discovered. So maybe he thinks the navigation system has been pointing them towards crash landing in New Siam. Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Excellent. That was it. That's my note.
Yeah, good stuff.
John, overall, what did you think of the episode?
I, again, really loved it. Give it 5 alien tadpoles out of 5. I'm just really enjoying just the whole vibe of
good.
Alien Earth.
Yeah.
As I say, I actually felt I had the rug pulled from under me with this episode because I thought we were going to see changes in some of the 5 specimens that had been brought back. And actually, you're looking at the changes to the young hybrids because they're young yet in adult bodies and have just experienced this crash site. Huge amounts of adult experiences really quickly just thrust upon them. The fight with Wendy, Hermit and the Xenomorph, really suspenseful.
It's really good.
Loving Kirsh in this, loving Morrow, slightly Smee. All the actors who are playing the hybrids are doing really, really well at getting this childlike vibe from them.
Yeah.
Some, older than others, and sort of then that contrast with the grown-up situation, in particular where we have Slightly and Smee sort of confronted by Morrow. The whole dissecting of the egg, the face hugger, the embryonic alien, then being incubated within Hermit's removed lung. I'm there going, well, is he even going to survive? This is seemingly the sort of Dr. Mengelev's sort of R&D from hell. You think actually they're saving him.
Yeah.
And then his lungs there in a glass cabinet to host the alien tadpole.
Now, in fairness, they did show the X-ray showing the other lung was still inside him.
No,
which
agreed.
is good.
No,
I just want to say
agreed.
that's definitely there. And also, they really don't want to piss off Wendy.
No, I agreed. But I was there going, are they just chopping him up for tests with all these species? So we'll see if Joe survives the surgery.
Let's hope so, huh?
Absolutely really enjoying this and kind of looking forward to seeing what happens next now that they're contained on the Neverland Island research facility and not the Maginot spaceship. So, for me, 5 alien tadpoles out of 5.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up next. It's just such a great show. Look forward to it every week. I wonder what's going to happen and how Mara's going to get to Neverland. How he's going to find his own way there. I presume.
I'm sure his arm turns into a paddle.
It might. But I presume if you have your evil villain lair on an island, you probably have the entire air, sea, and land access monitored at all times.
I'm sure.
Mara's going to have to find some way there. Interesting. Let's see how that goes next week. But wonderfully, John, we've got some feedback in from our lovely Lost Boys, John.
Great stuff.
Excellent. First up, we have an email in from Coffee and Vodka, who says, "Greetings, fellow befriended defenders. How can a show be everything at once? Creepy, scary, cute, dramatic, comedic, obvious, and enigmatic. Looks like the Xenomorph passed on a bit of genetic empathy to Wendy, while slightly made an unintended Zoom buddy, and an above and beyond notice to Jonathan Aja's performance as Smee. I can't remember 12, much less drum up age-appropriate attitude. Truly excellent work. As usual, however, Timothy Oliphant's scene stealing is the best ever. Love to see Kirsh put Boy Kavalier in his place whenever possible. So much of this, so far, is being played very in-house. If you're setting up Game of Thrones on Planet Blade Runner, however, some big moves by some big players are best presented sooner rather than later. Finally, did Big Bro just lose half his innards to a test tube terror? 4.5 stiff upper lip synths, kid petulance, and broken eggs out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka."
great stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, totally with you on Jonathan Ayaji's performance as Smee. It's just really good. And the same for Adarsh Gurav as well, who plays Slightly.
Absolutely.
I think they're doing really, really well. And I think that's as well because they're playing off one another. Because I think in the same way, you know, Tootle's kind of standoffishness is being handled really well. I mean, there's a moment where he's looking at a tablet on the plane, but he's just doing like so many nervous twitches with his eye, as though he's kind of just like that bookworm who is kind of just sort of twitching away.
Yeah,
it's really, really sort of well observed, but it's such a small little scene, and then it's just that they're covering that range, that varying range of adolescence, and how grown up you are. Some being more so than others, and I think, you know, then Arana James and Lily Newmark as Curly and Nibs are kind of that older variation where actually these things are bothering them, even though they may only have been 12. They're more grown up than you think. You know, I just think they're playing it really well.
Absolutely. Just such a great cast playing such great roles here. So good to see them each week.
Yeah. And like you say, Timothy Oliphant is just really, really good
He's
here.
fantastic.
You know, so yeah. Good stuff, Coffee and Vodka.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, over on Facebook, we have some messages as well from our fellow Lost Boys. Sam Lowe says, "Oh no, Boy K is going to infect and kill Joe. Is Boy K going to be inappropriate with Curly? Morrow's secret convo with Slightly also had a dark edge. Adults having secret conversations with children in adult bodies is disturbing. I suppose that's the point. The actors continue to be fantastic in embodying children. This series is really knocking it out of the park for me, and I'm really enjoying your coverage. Why do you think they're going to infect Joe with the Xenomorph as opposed to a more disposable vessel? Quite a gamble to risk angering Wendy. Is it Boy K's hubris? Will Wendy snap his scrawny neck in retaliation?"
Excellent.
Excellent stuff, Sam. It's interesting you say that because now you mention it, they could quite easily reinsert the lung back into his
could
body.
they, you think?
Oh, maybe that's what they're doing, rather than them seeing how it performs in a glass case. I mean, because actually the way it is at the moment, it looks like a piece of artwork, you know, suspended.
Or a kebab.
But maybe, or a kebab. Or maybe they are going to try and do that transplant back into the body. The only thing I would say is that it seems to still be quite like the different zones of the lung there. So I don't know, but that is a good point if they are going to do that.
Maybe.
And yeah, I would say
I thought
Wendy is going to get pretty annoyed if that is the case.
Yeah, I was speculating that it would be the 5 samples that would kill Boy K. Maybe it'd just be Wendy snapping his neck. Maybe that would be just as satisfying to have one of his own creations take him out. But yeah, I think they were putting the Xeno inside of the lung, outside of the body as a host, because that is a safer way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than putting it back in. But that's an interesting suggestion, Sam. Ooh, scary. Let's find out next week, I guess.
It's also one of those things where it's the first test, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is the interesting thing about it. You can't learn everything, although Kirsh has a pretty good idea from the files and the information that he downloaded, and from his pure observation.
Yeah.
You know, he says the hole created in the cryo chamber was from the outside, from the inside out. So, you can't get everything right on your first sort of attempt, but I guess they will do. And yeah, you just wonder whether it would complicate it now trying to put it back into Joe's body.
Yeah. Well, again, let's see. That's a really creepy...
Great thought, though,
idea.
Sam, for sure. And certainly the secret combos between Morrow and Slightly, as well as with Curly and Kavalier.
At least, and I think thankfully for the show, they've already explained that even in the conversation with Curly, they've already explained that there's no bodily functions of the synthetic bodies that they're inside. So at least that's something. So maybe not inappropriate with Curly, but at least the way he's speaking to her is definitely inappropriate. Yeah.
But good stuff. Thanks, Sam. And I'm really pleased you're enjoying the series as well as our coverage. Great to have you on board, and thanks so much for the feedback.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Joel Sharpton says, such a surprising turn of events for this episode. And yes, it's virtually guaranteed to turn Wendy against her boy genius. Good Lord, FX and Hulu just keep bringing hits these days, don't they? They really do. You know, it's like the investment that came from Disney buying Fox. You know, they've created this offshoot brand where they're, you know, allowing them to create some really interesting shows, like Shogun was on Fox and Hulu, or FX and Hulu in the US, and over here. This show, of course, and pretty much all of Noah Hawley's shows have been on FX, haven't they? So from Legion to Fargo as well. So the hits keep coming, and I'm glad they didn't wind down FX, which was the original rumor when it was all bought by Disney.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Joel. Richard Blaze says, first, Boy Kavalier is an absolutely freaking lunatic. Easily one of the most despicable characters on TV at the moment.
Absolutely.
Typical third episode for me. Tries to tie up the story from the first 2 episodes while setting the stage for the rest of the series. Did think that Joe had an alien inside him, and that's why the alien had bound him, but the surgery didn't show it, or wasn't clear whether he had or not. Not sure I needed to see the alien tadpole from the facehugger. A little bit of mystery for me is better. Still a beautiful episode to look at, mind. Excellent stuff, Richard. I quite like the old teensy-weensy alien tadpole. I thought it was kind of good. But I do know what you mean. Mystery is good. But I think ultimately, unless you're in a cinema in 1979, the mystery is fairly bust, but I do know what you mean. Absolutely. That's what we're wanting to get, is to that point where you go, I really wasn't expecting that.
Absolutely.
To be honest, it kind of has given it to me with the cat and the eyeball. It's certainly a new way for a host organism to sort of infect its host, is through the eyeball.
Absolutely. And remember, we've still got 4 more of those specimens to see what they do as well. So there's lots of things to talk about. I guess at this stage, the way I'm looking at it is it's almost 40 years since the first Alien movie. There's been a lot of mystery over those 40 years about some of the things in between the 4 stages of the Xenomorph. So I'm okay with them giving a little bit of that, because we've got so much other stuff to explore as well over there.
Interestingly, though, as well, when the stuff came into Netherlands, you had the pod species that, you know, is it flora, is it fauna? And Kavalier's eyes seem to light up over that a bit, as well as the dead Xenomorph and the fact that it had acid for blood. But yeah, it was kind of interesting, the camera switch after showing the pod to the reaction of Boy Kavalier. Maybe it was just as the alien was coming into view. Anyway, I still want to know what's going to happen with that pod.
I do. I just think it just drags you inside.
Yeah, it's going to be like Half-Life. Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
And we also have from Paul Chen-Shi Lee. He has a number of thoughts. He says, watching episode 3 made me go back and rewatch Prometheus. Noah Hawley talked about this on the official podcast because he and the team are trying to work out which bits of lore they're embracing. Given that the show is something of a midquel, sandwiched between Prometheus, Covenant, Romulus, and Aliens, Kirsh pulling out the tadpole morph, excellent, I like that, from the facehugger echoes David doing something similar in Covenant, and David getting that tiny dab of goo in Prometheus. Insert gif of Leo snapping his fingers while watching TV.
I know that reference.
Yes, exactly. Secondly, the actors portraying the hybrids continue to do amazing jobs, behaving like pre-teen kids. I don't think we'd be so creeped out by their interactions with adults if they didn't believably act kid-like.
Very true, yeah.
Thirdly, I think we all have had the question of whether the rest of the Lost Boys also got all the enhancements that Wendy is displaying. It seems clear that Curly has expanded memory capabilities, not sure why she wouldn't have the same supercomputer as her brain that Wendy does. My personal theory is that as custom as the synthetic bodies must be to look like, must be to look like an adult version of each child, there's no reason to make the inside significantly different. You'd want them to be as similar as possible so that if there are problems, they'd be easy to work out by testing each body. This then begs the question, why does it seem like only Curly has explored her augmented mental abilities? Was she slightly older, more mature?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, I wonder about that,
Yeah.
but I think that's probably just to do with the personality of Curly. Like each person, each child that went in had already got a personality when they went in, and it would seem like Curly was quite a competitive person, so she's exploring her mind a bit more than maybe Slightly or Smee are doing. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's still in that vein of, as Kavalier says, you know, children's minds have infinite imagination. So they're able to go places. And I think as well, it's keying into that notion of memories rather than intellect. It's, I like, not that you can learn French or do supercomputer maths or whatever as a synth. It's the memory element, which is very personal, or that ultimately leading, I guess, to a kind of a consciousness. Are they, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
but she's choosing to tap into the things that are there.
The decisions are being made. Yeah.
Whereas you may see Slightly choosing to tap into the extra strength that he has by being in a synth body. He may not have the same kind of strength as Wendy, which was specifically given to her by Boy Kavalier as the first of all of them. But he may tap into certain types of things that are in those bodies.
And I think it's down to that initial starting condition, probably, as to why they're different.
And I wonder if this whole conversation that was having with Boy K is just him trying to push Curly down a specific path of trying to impress him with her intellect. And that's why she's going to break open those particular areas of her synthetic. And I wonder, will that be another test of Boy Kavalier? You know, maybe,
it's interesting.
Maybe you can guide synthetics to do things different ways, you know?
And you've still got Arthur and Dame Sylvia. You know, you have that conversation between Dame Sylvia and Kirsh in episode 1 where she's saying, well, we're trying to give them the experience.
Exactly.
Or, you know, so it's all that hormonal and pheromonal elements that we're trying to give to them to have that experience, trying to replicate that in some way, not exactly like for like. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question, Paul, for sure. So yeah, really like that. And Paul has a fourth and final point. I really want to know why that person was steam washing those dark spots in the hallway. He's not always there because we see 2 different shots of Nibs walking that hallway, and he wasn't there in one of them. Also, I wanted to note that Atom Ions, which a group of reactors have consistently been called Alfred, is played by Adrian Edmondson, aka Vivian from The Young Ones. I watched a few episodes when it showed up on the public television in the US about a year or 2 after it was released in the UK. I'm sure I didn't get any of it besides the physical comedy, and I might have not even gotten the dialogue because of the accents. Wondering if our hosts are of the right age group to remember the show, or if it was ever rerun on UK or Irish television.
Yes.
The answer to that, yes, Paul, is yes, we were of that age. I think possibly for me, it was a bit of a rebel show to watch.
Definitely.
Yeah. And yes, it is rerun on, I think, some channels like Dave.
It's been rerun pretty often over the decades. Yeah, I think Ade Edmondson is pretty much comedic royalty. He was married to Jennifer Saunders of Ab Fab fame for many years. So he himself is very well known as a comedian right the way through from The Young Ones, and then the sequel series Bottom, where he again teamed up with Rick Mayall and Ade Edmondson together in that show. So that ran for many years as well. But a really interesting one just that you pointed out this week, because on the Interview with Empire podcast, Noah Hawley was talking about meeting Ade Edmondson for the first time before this show, that Ade Edmondson had done a tape to audition for a role in the show, and he was kind of going, why would Ade Edmondson want to be in this show? You know, he's a comedian. But he's worked with comedians before who've done dramatic roles, and he met him and talked to him and said, if it wasn't for Ade Edmondson, there would be no Noah Hawley. He would not have the career that he has. And the reason why is because in an episode of The Young Ones, Vivian walks through his wardrobe and ends off in Narnia. And the show is a very basic sitcom premise. And Noah Hawley, as a young kid, seeing this character on a show walk through his wardrobe and ending off in Narnia, going, you can do that on a TV show? That's crazy. And he says that inspired him. And over the years, he used that kind of tool in his shows like Legion. And it inspired him to go, you can do anything you want to. It's all just imagination. And he said that's where he got it was from Ade Edmondson. So that's a great story, I thought.
Absolutely. That is a really good story.
Mm-hmm. But we know him very well. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of who the person is washing those dark spots, not a clue, Paul. Nope. Not a clue. Really looking forward to finding out that as well. And I like your timeline here that you're postulating. And I think, it does echo David doing wasn't there all the drawings in Covenant, and he kind of had worked out the life cycle as well.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing, isn't it? And no, not to get too much in the weeds of this, but the Alien movies with Ripley that go from Alien all the way through, they're all of a piece because it's the same character that's in them all. And then the most recent Alien Romulus is part of the same piece. And now Alien Earth is part of the same piece. Prometheus and Covenant were both done by Ridley Scott, but he says they are not part of the Alien movies. They're not prequels. They're set on different planets. They have similar ideas. But he said they weren't part of the other stories. They didn't want to be tied down by the mythos or tied down to connect them into the other movies, which was so frustrating for fans when we all went to see them in the cinema. And it was like, you finally get your first glimpse of the Xenomorph and it looks completely different to the Xenomorph that we've seen, or just slightly different to the Xenomorph that we've seen in the other Alien movies. And you're going, but you just had an opportunity there that you could have just set this. Literally a script rewrite would have made it connect him with the other movies, but Ridley Scott didn't want to do that, so we let him go and do his movies. Prometheus and Covenant are still very watchable films, but annoyingly they're just a little bit off to the side of the other movies.
Yeah, that's true, but I think actually with Romulus being there now and the final monster that occurs at the end of Romulus is really interesting, because that feels a bit in the wheelhouse of Prometheus and Covenant.
Yeah.
So,
and I think Noah Hawley is going to massage it a bit and take pieces of that story of Prometheus, but actually set it in the Alien universe, which, hey, look, Ridley Scott is allowed to make whatever decisions he wants to make, but I wish Ridley Scott had done the same thing and allowed it to just be in that universe and just gone, a little script pass, a couple of extra lines, a couple of lines of dialogue. The whole Weyl-Yutani thing was out in space, so it didn't affect the storyline that was going on. I'm going to keep the basics of the designs, something like that. I wish he'd done that, but because he was so specific, those two movies aren't technically part of it. But I think Noah Hawley's going to steal little bits from it, take little bits from it and incorporate them in his show. So
he
great
doesn't
stuff.
know what he's saying to Zol's Ridley on that front.
Interestingly, even recently, didn't he say that he absolutely hates sci-fi movies, that he loves horror movies, and that's what he did with Alien, right?
Yes, exactly.
It just happened to be Alien in space, right?
Yeah.
Yes, brilliant stuff. But thanks so much, Paul, for your feedback. Really
Paul.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Finally, we have a piece of feedback in from Dr. Bob Phillips, who says, so impressed by the Lost Boys actors and the quiet menace of the butler. Something is very rotten in Neverland. Boy Kavalier may wish to be childlike, but he's not. He's a grown-up, and pretending down is deeply disturbing, and I can't be the only one feeling echoes of a child prodigy pop star of the past. Also, didn't have fetish club / internet cafe as a business type of the future. I guess internet cafes, they eventually get quite seedy, don't they? So just go down and down.
They do need other avenues of income now that it's all on everyone's phone. It must be in New Siam.
Must be.
But yeah. I guess it's the future, business model of the future. Fetish club, internet cafe, fetish club, coffee and croissants cafe.
No, I don't know about that. Maybe go for the post office or something.
Office.
Not something you're going to be eating
fetish
at.
Club. Yeah. I need 2 stamps. Well.
Mary over there will lick them for you. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Great stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. I'm glad you're enjoying the show as well.
Absolutely.
This cast are so good. Can't wait to see what's happening next week. And with that, we will be back next week, of course, for our chat all about Alien Earth, episode 4, called Observation.
Excellent. Ooh, it's moving through the scientific stages of discovery and categorization, maybe.
Categorization's episode 7, John.
But it's not really, because we've not had hypothesis.
Hypothesis is episode 6. It's not. We will give you the rest of the titles of the episodes as we go through them. But next week is Observation. Thanks so much for joining us for our chat all about this week's episode of Alien Earth. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow aliens and fellow Lost Boys, for joining us until we come back for Observation. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep screaming down the house.
Bye.
Bye. Exactly. But I mean, I think that's one of the things that Prometheus Covenant brought was just the notion, and Alien as well, that the bad robot,
absolutely,
or bad synth.
And that's J.J. Abrams, but anyway.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's not involved in the Alien franchise.